This is the Barry Richards Show. WBSM On Demand.
Without further ado,
WBSM presents The Barry Richards Show. Streaming live on WBSM.com and the WBSM app. Call 508-996-0500. Text us using App Chat on the WBSM app. Now, The Barry Richards Show.
Love is only true in fairy tales, and for someone else, but not for me. Our love was out to get me, that's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Then I saw her face, now I'm a believer.
All right, welcome to the program for a Thursday afternoon, and guess what? It's raining again. Do I have to tell you that? No, I don't have to tell you that. It's raining where you are, too. I'm sure it's raining all over the area today, and it's coming down pretty good. I see the breeze is blowing the wind through the puddles and all of that kind of stuff. Just what we need, more rain. At least everything's pretty, right? It's all green and flowery out there, and but I could use maybe a good 4 or 5 day run of warm sunshine. How about you? I think that would be pretty cool. So how long is this rain going to be with us? We will check the ABC 6 Weather Center forecast. That's coming up as part of the 1 o'clock news break. So stay with us. Don't go anywhere. A lot of stuff going on today, as there generally is. And I know I say that every week when I introduce her, but Holly Robichaud, the national political consultant and correspondent, graciously joins us on Thursday afternoon. She's with us right now. Hi, Holly. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm tired of rain, but other than that, I'm good.
I can use a little bit of global warming, huh?
Yeah, right. You know, a little bit of global warming would be nice right about now with some sunshine and all that kind of stuff. Maybe I could jet off to Rome with Maura Healey. Is it warm over there this time of year? I would imagine it is, right?
I think it is, yeah. She's having a good time meeting the Pope.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, right, so she's over there to talk about climate change, right? This is after Sunday. She said there was nothing she could basically do about illegal immigration. I mean, okay, right? I think there are some things like not paying $64 per day per illegal immigrant and food costs, which is more than you and I spend. But, hey, she can't do anything about it. Maybe we should find somebody that would want to do something about it. But she's over there at this climate change conference in Rome, meeting the Pope. And she's doing it on, it's paid for by the tourism industry.
Yeah.
Now, I would have thought that money was supposed to go towards promoting Cape Cod, downtown New Bedford, which is looking great these days. People, restaurants like Black Whale and Carmine's can get more people into them. But nope, she is taking that money to go to Rome to talk about climate change. And I bet she flew in a plane. I bet she did not paddle over.
No, I think you're probably right. And not only is she there, but she's got, I think, 4 assistants with her. And Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston, is there. And even though the tourism department is not paying for Michelle Wu to go, the citizens of Boston are through their tax money. And we found out this week in the Boston Herald that Michelle Wu apparently took her 2 children with her, too, on taxpayer money. How arrogant can these people be?
They're pretty arrogant.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
To take your children on taxpayer dime is wrong. Is absolutely wrong, and it should be. I'm sorry, if you want to take your children to work that day, it should be on your dime, not our dime. But they don't care about us whatsoever. I mean, for the governor to get on WCVB last weekend and say, "Well, it's because of the law, I can't do anything." Let me just count the ways she could have done something about it. First and foremost, she could stop filing supplemental budgets to pay for the illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
2, she could have, in the last budget, when she sent out her version of the budget, she could have put in the simple amendment to the right to shelter law to stop all of this. She did not. Okay, she could stop paying for the lawyers for the illegal immigrants. She could stop paying for the dry cleaning for the illegal immigrants. There's 1,000 things she could do to make this situation better, but she just says, "Oh, nope, can't do anything because it's the law."
Yeah,
it's absolutely outrageous.
You know, we had Senator Peter Durant on earlier in the week, and he came up with a solid point that I hadn't even thought about. Healy keeps talking about how we've reached the cap. We've reached the cap. The number of people that we can have in shelters here, yet she keeps taking new properties and converting them into shelters. So if we've reached the cap, why do we need all these new shelters? And I guess the folks up in where the prison is
Norfolk.
Yeah, thank you. I guess they're pretty upset. Nobody told them about this. Now all of a sudden they're going from... Yeah, and Senator Durant made another point, too, that not only do we take these buildings and use them for shelters, but we have to pay to convert them into shelters. So it's not just as simple as opening the cell doors and letting people in. We've got to upgrade these things, and that's coming at taxpayers' expense, too.
Oh, yeah. It's costing us not millions, but billions of dollars. And, and she doesn't tell any of the local officials that are going to have to school those children, right? Are going to probably have to have more police on duty. Nope, she doesn't have any of these discussions with the local officials. She just says, here they come, here they are, right? And you're just supposed to deal with it. She's also, for the communities that have hotels, she's not helping them when they've lost the revenue from the hotels. I mean, this is just, I believe her days are numbered. And she would be recalled right now if we have that kind of system in Massachusetts.
There was a poll out this week from the Massachusetts Retailers Association, which was kind of interesting, and it showed, I don't have it in front of me, so I got to do this from memory, but it showed that 48% of Massachusetts residents think the state is on the right track. 48%. Now that's outrageous to folks like you and me who pay attention to what's going on. But it's down from 59% a year ago. So that is a significant drop. And even Maura Healey's approval rating is at 54%, which again is outrageous. But that's down from 60% a year ago. So I think voters are finally sitting up and taking notice.
I believe so. I mean, I'm sure you go out and see friends, and what's the issue they talk to you about, Barry? Right? Illegal immigration. They comment, I saw them here, I saw them there, this is going on, got cut off by an illegal immigrant driver, they were at a restaurant, right? I mean, they're taking over this hotel, right? Why are there, the one down I see in Onset, I want to question why that hotel has been taken over, but yet there's a Mercedes that's parked out in front of that hotel since the illegals took over. So I'd like to know who's paying for that Mercedes. I mean, it's just, look, people are frustrated. And if Maura Healey is continuing to ignore this problem, she's going to be out in 2 years. Okay. And look at how the games that the legislative Democrats are playing with the state budget so that they can say they didn't go along with Healey. They have cut in half the amount of money that the state needs for housing these illegals under the Healey plan, what she's doing. They cut it in half so they can go back to the district and say, oh, no, we only did half that amount, right? It's not that bad. We only did half that amount. And you and I both know what will happen is in November, once they get through the elections, they'll come back with a supplemental budget and we'll get to pay the other half. Yeah. But they're playing these games. They also said they put a 9th-month cap. Woo! Right? 9th-month cap with 2 different extensions for 9 months. I mean, it's not a cap. No. And you don't have to give a reason to ask for an extension. That's a pretty good deal. I mean, the IRS doesn't let you do that.
The Senate is out with this version of a budget now, $58 billion. And according to a piece in the State House News Service this week, $1.15 billion in one-time revenues. Now, we know what happens when you build one-time revenues into your budget, that you're building in a structural deficit, money that you've got to come up with next year, or you raise taxes and make cuts. Now, these folks never make cuts, so it means more. And I guess some 1,100 amendments, and I guess they're working on some of those this week or next week, totaling another $2.9 billion. Don't these folks get newspapers there? Don't they understand that we are operating at a decline in revenue. We're getting less money coming in, and they just keep coming up with these plans to spend more and more and more money with no discussion at all about reining it in.
Well, they're spendaholics.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're spendaholics, and they have never passed on raising taxes. I mean, Speaker Mariano said, "Oh, turns out the transfer property tax isn't very popular." No, people don't want to be paying more taxes. I mean, they don't want to be paying, right? I mean, he's like, "Oh, it's going to go to housing." I think we're spending an awful lot of money on housing these days, right? I mean, so the Democrats, they wouldn't know how to cut back on anything. They just like to spend more and more of our tax dollars. And if you remember, these are the same Democrats that created the commission on things that aren't taxed. They called it the Tax Expenditure Commission, right? And so this tax expenditure in Massachusetts is not paving the roads. It's not, it's not paying for anything that's relevant, teachers or anything like that. They consider a tax expenditure is when they don't tax you on something. So every time you go to, Walmart and you buy food, you go to the grocery food store and you buy food and you don't pay taxes on it, they consider that an expenditure on the state because they didn't collect tax money on those purchases. I mean, that's how crazy our state is. So yeah, they won't be making any cuts. They'll come after us for more and more money. And I would say we're probably $2 billion deficit on this budget, at least because of the amount of money that the illegals are costing us that they're hiding, and then the one-time revenues.
So we're like mid-May, and they've got until the end of June, at least in the books, right, to get a budget in place, right? And and most of Maura Healey's agenda is still hanging out there, and they haven't taken it up yet. I mean, all kinds of stuff like healthcare reform, early education, and care investments, long-term care oversight, not to mention the budget. And how we're going to fund the illegals going
taxes,
forward,
right?
Yeah,
she wants the communities to be able to raise the excise. Yeah, so
well, look, and now you've got Mariano yesterday talking about a new climate change bill. I don't know the particulars on it, but I know that I plan to have something out there for discussion by the end of the session. Oh, I got an awful lot of work to do yet, and not much time left.
Well, the good news is that the time is running out.
That's the real good news, yeah.
Right? That's the good news. They can't do damage if the time is running out. But look, what they'll do is they like to pass legislation during the heat of the summer. Yeah. So nobody's paying attention to it. And then we find out in the fall going, oh, that hurts, right? And they're like, oh, it's the law, right? It's settled law, and so you can't do anything about it. These guys, though, they will not get the budget done on time, which is June 30th. They haven't done it for, I can't remember. It's been decades since they got a budget done on time. So they'll drag it out, and they won't go out of session until August 1st, but they'll try to get a lot of things done during July when nobody's paying attention.
If I remember correctly, we are at the end of the session, right? The session's in 2 years, so we're coming to the end of the session this year, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, so they will finish August 1st, and that should be the end of the legislative session until next.
So
January.
Anything that's left pending kind of just goes away, right? They have to refile next year or whatever. So they can't just carry it over. Yeah. So essentially what we're saying here is that Maura Healey's entire agenda, everything that she's proposed, everything she's put forward up to this point is in the balance and may not even get done before this session is over, with the exception of, getting some money for illegal immigrants. That's pretty much what she's accomplished, right? Besides, I read the other day, 47 nights within the first 16 months of her being governor, 47 nights out of state. And this was on Politico, 47 nights out of state and 67 days out of state for Maura Healey in just the first 16 months that she's been governor. So what can she say she's accomplished if her entire legislative delegation is still sitting there yet to be addressed?
Well, she's the most traveled governor in the entire country.
She wore out those pro-kids over 16 months.
Well, she did accomplish becoming number one on something, and that's being the most traveled governor in all of the states. So, congratulations, Maura. What an accomplishment.
Yeah.
So I think it's clear she doesn't want to even be our governor, and that's why she's traveling so much. And she hasn't focused in on any of the needs of the state. I mean, she said she was going to help make Massachusetts more affordable. I saw the campaign commercials. She stole her lines out of Chris Doty's commercials, and yet she's done nothing to make Massachusetts more affordable. Every day you go to Walmart or any of the other stores, it becomes more and more expensive. I mean, I can't believe when I plunk down $40 that I get basically nothing for it. It's outrageous.
Well, Biden said he inherited 9% inflation. So, I mean, there's that, right?
Yeah. Right. He's out of his mind.
We'll get into that in just a second. But just finally on this subject, is Maura Healey, I mean, I'm getting a sense we're seeing a Mitt Romney kind of scenario here where Maura Healey is really auditioning for a presidential run in 4 years. Do you think is that her ambition?
Either, I'm not sure presidential, but I would think that she is certainly looking at, Markey probably is not going to last much longer, and so she's probably looking at a U.S. Senate race.
Which would be a nice stepping stone along the way, right? If Markey, steps down or starts pushing daisies or whatever, I mean, she can sit in that seat for a couple of years and give her a nice launch pad for the White House. Right.
So... or she's hoping to be the Secretary of Economic Affairs, Environmental Affairs, if Biden is reelected, which I can't believe. That's a scary thought.
All right, so Biden and Trump are going to debate, and part of me says I can't believe Trump agreed to debate with Jake Tapper on CNN next month. But I guess when you are the challenger, you got to take what they throw at you, right? So. I don't know, maybe he could have declined it and simply did a rally that night or something and got a lot more attention, maybe. I don't know. Or does he need to contrast himself with Joe Biden?
If I was him, I would have said, sure. But, we can debate on CNN, but this is the moderator I want. Right? I mean, he could have done that. I think he should have held out and tried to get a little bit more favorable circumstances. There's too much riding on it, and I am worried. Because everybody's expectations of Joe Biden are so low. As long as he doesn't trip on stage and he knows his name, the media is going to declare him a winner.
No, absolutely true. And if he gets a Jake Tapper / Candy Crowley up there on stage moderating this thing, it's going to be tough. Trump can certainly.
It's going to be 3-on-1.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and so that's not a fair debate, and there's so much riding on it. I hope that Trump is, I have every confidence in Trump, but under the circumstances, it does make me worry, right? And it seems like this is the world's biggest setup for him. I mean, the other thing people aren't talking about is that they're doing this debate in June. That gives President Biden a lot of time to recover if he completely blows it, because he still has the power of the presidency of getting his message out there through the White House. So I am worried about these debates. I know President Trump will do well, but the expectations are so low for Joe Biden. I'm hoping that Trump can just absolutely clobber him.
Well, you know what? Trump's grown and Trump's grown and he's learned a lot from the last time. Now, you remember in 2022, it was 2020 when he went out there. First debate, he was so pissed off, and you could see it, and he was angry. He wouldn't let Biden speak, and he just kept trying to correct him. And that didn't play well with the audience. I think Trump lost that debate. How you lose to Joe Biden in a debate? Awful. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty tough. So, but I think he's grown, and I think he's learned a lot, and I think he's more comfortable in his own skin now, and I think he'll have a much easier time. But you're right; he's going to have some obstacles to overcome out there on that stage.
He's going to have a lot of obstacles. I mean, CNN controls the microphones being on or off. I mean, I don't need a crystal ball to correctly predict that when Biden starts to go off subject and go to crazy land, that they're going to shut off his microphone so nobody can hear him. Meanwhile, if Trump's making a good point, they're like, "Oh, you're off."
Yeah,
right?
oop, time's up. If I was Trump, I'd dance. You know that dance he does while Biden's talking? Do that little dance behind the podium and just kind of get people laughing, go for the humor effect. 100,000 people turned out to see Trump in New Jersey over the weekend. What does that say?
Yeah, woo!
Well,
That's impressive. Okay, I can't remember a rally that ever being that big.
Yeah.
Very impressive. And in New Jersey.
I don't think the Beatles ever turned out 100,000 people, did they?
I don't know. A little bit before my time, Barry.
Yeah, well, but they turned out a lot of people. I don't think they ever turned out. At one point, John Lennon compared them to Jesus because they had bigger following. But I don't think they ever turned out to 100,000 people at a Beatles concert. So, for Trump to turn out 100,000 people in blue state New Jersey. One of the things in 2016, I predicted Trump was going to win all the way through the thing from the beginning to the end. Trump was going to win. Trump was going to win. I was never nervous about that for a moment. And the reason I felt that way is because I felt that we were not hearing from the silent majority. And people were turning out for Trump's rallies, but you weren't, you know what I mean? But you weren't seeing them in the polls.
I think that's happening once again.
I think that's happening again. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I just saw a poll over my shoulder.
People don't want to publicly admit that they're with President Trump, but they look at the economy, they look at their, the price of eggs, and they go, right? Or filling up at the gas stations, right? And then you see those stickers, Joe Biden, I did this, right? Well, maybe I don't want that.
Yeah. Even Mitt Romney.
And anybody that's worried about their wallet is going to be voting for Trump.
Even Mitt Romney, of all people, yesterday was on, I think it was MSNBC. I read the story earlier. And he told whoever the announcer was, the generic announcer over at MSNBC, that Joe Biden made a huge tactical mistake, that he should have prevented the prosecution of Trump on any of these charges, and he should have leaned on the prosecutors in New York not to do it. He said, if this was LBJ would have said, look, this is going to kill us politically, or you're creating a Frankenstein here. Let's just don't do this. And he would have looked like the bigger person, too. It's interesting to hear Mitt Romney say that. Mitt Romney hates Donald Trump, and I don't think he's saying it because he wants to see Donald Trump elected. But I think from an analytical point of view, I think Romney might be onto something with that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Republicans that are in New York today calling out the prosecution of Trump and standing with him over this. Trumped up charges. It's just, it's not illegal to have an affair, and it's not illegal to pay off the woman to keep her mouth shut. So there's no problem here, right? Other than he probably has a problem with Melania, but there's no problem here. So, and I know Jill would never cheat on Joe because she's just got to keep an eye on him all the time.
Interesting you would go that way. Jill would not cheat on Joe as opposed to Joe cheating on Jill. Most of the time we talk about cheating in the White House, it's usually the president that we're talking about. Although Jackie was a little loose too. So,
She was?
She was a bit of a floozy. Yeah. They were both pretty strange characters. So anyway, at that point, we're going to hold it, and we're going to pick it up next week. So stay dry.
You can fill me in over the week.
Yeah, and so we appreciate it. Always great to have you on the program. Holly Robichaud. We'll do it again next week.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. 508-996-0500. Holly Robichaud, national political consultant and correspondent. We're back after this for your thoughts. Stay. And more than 100,000 law enforcement officers have been attacked on the job in the last 2 years. And more were killed in the last 3 years compared to any other period within the last 20 years, according to the FBI. Shocking, 194 officers were killed between 2021 and 2023. Feloniously killed. I'm not quite sure what that means, feloniously killed. I mean, if you killed, you killed, right? I guess maybe during the committing of a felony, right? More than any other consecutive 3-year period in the past 2 decades. Special report that the FBI released on Tuesday revealed all this information. Law enforcement agencies around the country reported to the Bureau that a total of 79,091 officers were assaulted last year, marking the highest officer assault rate in the past decade. The top two most common circumstances during which these assaults occurred were when police officers responded to simple assaults against non-officers and when the cops responded to drug violations. So far in 2024, 12 law enforcement officers have been feloniously killed and 21 were killed in accidents in the line of duty. The special report again released during National Police Week as police groups raise awareness for the uptick in violence that police are facing while doing their jobs. And a good part of this, I think, can be attributed to anti-police politicians like Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden and others. And it's amazing how they put our officers, our police officers, for political purposes in grave danger. It's unforgivable. I mean, it's just, what do you say, right? Representative Dean Phillips, a Democrat from Minnesota, was on with Bret Baier last night. Fox News Channel Special Report. This is Special Report. Remember they used to interrupt programming on the networks back in the day when we were kids? This is a special report from ABC News. And then you see Peter Jennings come on and tell us what the special report was. They stopped saying bulletin. It used to be a bulletin. This is an ABC News bulletin. And they stopped saying that, and they went from bulletin to special report. And I'm not quite sure why they did that. And why all of a sudden a story that was considered to be a bulletin became a special report later in life. Now we see Fox News Alert or breaking news. We hardly see the word bulletin, if at all, anymore. News bulletin. This is a news bulletin or a special report. This is a special report from ABC News. Anyway, Bret Baier, Fox News Special Report. I wander off on tangents very easily. Congressman Dean Phillips, who is a Democrat from Minnesota, argued that it would be in the best interest of the Democrat Party to forego the convention this year and focus on campaigning. He argued that things are, quote, looking awfully like 1968. And this could also bleed over to the convention. Phillips stated, I think that President Biden has done a very good job of supporting our ally and friend Israel. I think he made a misstep, of course, last week, withholding some arms shipments, but I'm very pleased with his support. Clearly, young progressives are dismayed, and frankly, I think now the president has kind of offended those on both sides of this issue. But he can recapture that. I do believe he's principled in his support for Israel, but I'm afraid that this is looking awfully like 1968 with a lot of anger and angst and disenfranchisement. And I think going to play out on TV this summer, and it's going to be awfully contentious. So there's time to course correct. So Bret Baier then asked, 1968 was in Chicago, the Democrat convention. Do you think it could look like a little like that? Phillips answered, I think it can. And frankly, I think it would be in the best interest of the Democrat Party to forego the convention this year and focus on campaigning, because I don't see any way it can be accretive to the mission of winning the next election. Oh, he's right. I mean, they are setting low expectations and in fear of the people. They're afraid of the people. That the people might actually show up at the convention and raise some hell. Don't want that. It's all about the optics on television, right? By the way, a report revealing that key radical left-wing organizers central in the current anti-Israel and anti-America protest movement in our country are significantly funded and influenced by a network tied to the Chinese Communist Party, which seeks to advance a revolutionary, anti-government, anti-capitalist agenda threatening U.S. internal stability. This report from the Network Contagion Research Institute details how the Shut It Down for Palestine movement, which has connections to the Chinese Communist Party through the Singam Network, uses protests and media campaigns to push anti-America and anti-Israel narratives and significantly contribute to social unrest. Prominent groups within the Shut It Down for Palestine coalition, which emerged in late 2023, include the Answer Coalition, the People's Forum, and the International People's Assembly, all linked through financial, personal, and ideological ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Associates Neville Roy Singham and his wife, Jody Evans, the report says. Singham has been involved in CCP operations and has been investigated by the U.S., Canada, and India. He is known for funneling hundreds of millions of dollars into pro-China progressive advocacy through his network. His wife, Evans, co-founder of the radical left-wing anti-war organization Code Pink and board member of the People's Forum, has been actively involved in anti-America and anti-Israel protests, it reveals. So we've talked about this before, how the Chinese can win the war against the United States without having to fire a bullet, drop a bomb, or even put one of their soldiers' lives at risk. And that is to stir things up within, get everybody fighting amongst themselves, and essentially weaken ourselves. And in a case like this, hand ourselves over to the enemy. I mean, we've got our kids who are out on college campuses, and grown-ups too, teachers, employees, other places, Hollywood, all of these places that are hey, ho-hoing for this movement that is apparently being funded by a whole lot of bad people, including the Chinese Communist Party. Communist Chinese Party would like nothing more than to watch us, plus they're feeding us fentanyl across the border and all kinds of other stuff too. So, I mean, they would like nothing more than to watch us self-disintegrate. And they are certainly working to do that. So they can complete a revolution of the United States against the United States, create a revolution within the United States and an overthrow of the United States without having to fire a bullet. It's genius. I mean, the Soviets talked about that years ago, that we would be buried from within, right? The only thing is back in Khrushchev's time, we didn't have social media and cell phones and all the little toys and things that we have now that are distracting the American people and the nitwit evil media that we have now. So, Fox News was reporting exclusively this morning that a top grassroots group that represents Jewish Republicans across the country is showcasing what it calls its largest ever fundraising and expenditure effort in support of Donald Trump. The Republican Jewish Coalition, RJC, highlighted that it is committed to raising a minimum of $5 million from its donors and from its RJC Victory Fund super PAC to help elect Trump. Additionally, the group's political director, Sam Markstein, noted the announcement is in addition to our $15 million independent expenditure, which he characterized as the largest independent expenditure in the organization's history. As anti-Semitism spikes to record highs and America's relationship with our ally Israel continues to reach new lows, the Jewish community is more energized than ever to turn the page from the failures, broken promises, and betrayals by Joe Biden. November 5th cannot come soon enough, Markstein said. 508-996-0500. Quick break. We're going to come right back after this. Stay with us right here on WBS.
pushing this type of division, Marxism, communism on college campuses. They've bought off Hollywood. They've bought off a lot of entertainment. That includes even sports, for example. They've funneled money into everything for with the goal of causing division and destruction. They've been doing it so not so much under the radar, but really under people's noses, and people have basically taken a complete blind eye to this. I mean, they've bought property in this country, farmland, spy balloons, you name it. They're trying to force an electric auto company into Michigan, and they've bought off the governor there. It's one after the other, and unfortunately, our government, of course, is sleeping at the wheel and doing nothing about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and or even encouraging it in some ways. I mean, I know it's no surprise. That was your first question. Is it any surprise that this is going on? No, it's no surprise at all. As I mentioned, I mean, the Chinese, this is their game plan. They know that they can weaken us from within. A few belly punches and we're weakened, and they can take us over without having to. Because there's always been a question: is the United States still superior militarily to the Chinese? I think we are, and I think the Chinese know that. And I think they know our economy is still stronger than theirs, too. So, I mean, if they can weaken us up, they can just move right in and take over, and we're not even going to notice it. We're going to be busy looking at our phones.
Well, the other thing they've done, the new thing, rather just new, but the border. They have funneled money into the cartels. They've trafficked fentanyl using the cartels to ship it up to the United States of America. How many people have died because of fentanyl? So it's not just that funneling money into groups bringing Chinese nationals into the country. How many Chinese nationals have come across the southern border in the last 4 years? It's got to be a huge number. I know there was a story almost 2 months ago how the feds of the state government of Maine raided a marijuana farm run by Chinese nationals in Maine, which is a surprise to a lot of people. But yeah, and they're doing nothing about it because, like I said, all the people of importance that would basically try to stop this have been bought off by Chinese.
Well, watch, because next it's going to be the electric cars that are going to come pouring across the border. China's selling these electric cars now for like $12,000 a piece. It is going to be what Donald Trump said, and he was ridiculed for it when he said there's going to be a bloodbath, and there's going to be a bloodbath, and that's going to hurt our economy in ways that you can't even imagine. It's going to kill Detroit, and it's going to put a lot of people out of work, and that's going to be a big blow to our economy. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. 508-996-0500, and we got to do the break. We've got news coming up.